But there, are many personas, as we saw at the kind of start here, when we were thinking about the different personas who are involved in, the kind of cloud financial management, the reporting of cloud infrastructure, right? Because I might be, as I say, a finance person and I care about the cost center view. I might be an engineer who cares about environment. I might be a product manager who cares about, individual product lines or whatever it might be, as well as my executive who wants the kind of operating company or department level kind of view of costs as well. And so the billing centers only lets you build out one version of that. Yeah, so you can't have multiple different sets of billing centers. It's a single structure. So we have another construct that is actually really, really powerful, albeit a little bit abstract to start with, and it's called rule-based dimensions. And this enables me to build a set of dimensions, right? A set of allocation of costs. So the same rules apply in that I'm allocating spend to different environments, departments, cost centers, functions, whatever I want to call it, but I'm only allocating that cost once, okay? But with rule-based dimensions, I can be much more granular. So we saw in the UI that I could do a cloud account, I could do a resource group, or I could do a tag. But if we go and look at the documentation for RBDs, and we'll take a quick look at that. Actually, it's hard for me to switch between, but we'll go and have a look at this before. And we're going to do this as part of the exercise. Any of the dimensions that I have in the platform, including my custom tags, so my accounts, my services, the regions, the individual EC2 instance types, whatever kind of dimension exists in the billing data can be used for a rule-based dimension, as well as if you want to pull in data programmatically from another API source to effectively complement your tagging strategy or the metadata you have in the cloud, then you can do that. If you want to allocate AWS Premium support to a shared cost billing center, then we can actually use rule-based dimensions to do that. And then so the lines between what we call rule-based dimensions and the billing center allocation is actually starting to blur for us, because we have a mechanism of building that billing center allocation table that we've just gone through and manually had to work all the way down the tree. You can actually do that with rule-based dimensions. So you can create a rule-based dimension called BC, and it will actually be a set of rules that replace the allocation tables that you've just built. And lots of benefits, not just the granularity, but you can then say, well, this cost goes all the way from the top right down to the bottom, and it will work out in between what the kind of allocation structure is. So it can be actually a lot more friendly than doing something with the UI rules there. The only other thing to mention here is when we did the billing center allocation, there was no kind of concept of time, right? So a billing center structure where you build this out via the UI is, for all time, okay? It's not like you had a billing center hierarchy for January 2021 and a new one that represents your business structure in January 2022 and so on. It's just a structure and there's no time basis for it. But the rule-based dimensions, when we had a quick look at my cost center example between them, where costs were moving around, rule-based dimensions are time-based. And so if you use this construct to do billing center allocation, your billing center structure becomes time-based as well. The RBDs are very, very flexible, super, super granular in what we can do. They're time-based, okay? Can be a little bit conceptually difficult to think about a hierarchy for RBDs, but it is actually doable. We've got the historical record, that's the time-based thing, kind of double mentioned here. But there's no access control here, okay? So if I'm building a rule-based dimension that's, I don't know, department, right? It's nothing to do with my billing center tree. I can't then say, well, Jeremy only has access to sales, because it's a rule-based dimension. It's not a billing center structure. So when we're thinking about the segmentation physically of what cost I can see, rule-based dimensions are not a structure for doing that. So just bear that in mind. And then on the similar, right, the billing center structure, we can obviously, if we do the UI, we've only got a certain number of kind of attributes that we can use for that cost allocation. we don't have that historical. We can build complex hierarchies, but you can imagine it becomes quite tedious to manage those rules, right? So build a relatively simple hierarchy and then use rule-based dimensions. And it's an intersection of your maybe financial structure with department, cost center, environment, whatever else, you know, for your other personas that you need. So think about what you might need as a dimension for shared cost reporting. Think about what you might need for segmentation of cost and allocating users to specific, you know, see only certain costs. And that would be what you'd build out for billing centers. All of the other use cases for different personas, they're either met by your tagging strategy. That's quite simple. We go into the custom tags and we configure it. Or if we don't, you know, if they're more complex rules, then we build rule-based dimensions to reflect them. But you can intersect that. So I can go into operating company 1 and I can go show me, you know, the cost centers because it's an RBD, and that spend would be categorized by that dimension. So intersection is where the real power comes in, right? We can be in a tabular view here within the platform, and we can bring in, say, any of our dimensions here. So I could look in my tabular view at the billing center hierarchy, and somebody asked about whether you can visualize this. This will show you the billing centers at the level, you know, that I'm at, right? So I'm at the very top here. I can see all of the billing centers, but remember, engineering has some children, which is dev team A, dev team B. I won't see those from this level. I'm only seeing the billing center structure at the level I'm at. I can look at my spend by tag, right? So we configured some custom tags. We've added ends, I think, which will process overnight, and we'll see that. But then I've also got these rule-based dimensions. So I can go and see all of the chargeback codes for all of the spend, right? For whatever, you know, this is my use case. But I could go into engineering and similarly do chargeback code as well, right? And I would then see, if I'd have picked the right one, I would then see those chargeback codes that are specific to the costs in the engineering department only. Yeah, so we're bringing those things together. And the intersection is really, really powerful. And that's why you don't really need to build something 10 levels deep, right? Because in most cases, a couple of levels for financial reporting and other things, and then you're using the other structures. Mostly they will come from tags and things like this, but where a customer doesn't have a tagging strategy that is meeting their reporting needs, you're building a set of logic that says, okay, you can't maybe infer that from tags, or there is other business data or reasons that you might want to build those rules outside of the cloud vendor space. And therefore you can use this logic to do that. What we're going to do again is have a look at the API here, but just looking at the documents here, you'll see this is docs for rule-based dimensions API, and this is telling us what the rules dimensions are that we can allocate cost for, right? So if we look at a simple rule here, we're saying when a dimension of the cloud account equals 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? So a simple account name or ID, then I'm going to allocate it to a rule-based dimension called finance. Yeah, and so you can very easily build up a set of rules to allocate your cost in the way that we kind of did with billing centers. But I could do service equals AWS premium support, allocate to IT, right? And so on. So you can build out those rules. And in fact, if you go into here, and I think we'll probably touch on this, there is under here a JSON editor to help you kind of visualize this. And this editor you can see over here is a set of kind of human readable, right? So this is a department dimension, right? So it's going to be RBD department. The rules are going to be starting from January 2020. We've got 3 departments, engineering, sales, and tech support. Our first rule says account 1 goes to sales, then account 2 to engineering, account 3 goes to tech support. Yeah, and I can build in rules here and I can add in dimensions, but here I get the JSON that will actually go in and build that within the platform. You can have, I think there is a limit to RBDs of, I think it's 10. So you can have 10 dimensions. That's actually quite a lot on top of the billing centers and your custom tags. But when you start thinking about the rules, you can actually have over 10,000 rules in a single rule-based dimension, and then you've got, time-based. So we have organizations using this at substantial scale to do allocation.